X had a perception DC of 20, but PC with passive perception. Passive perceptions are tricky things to manage. I I think it's okay, even though in my experience you'll have some players that get grouchy about this. I think it's okay to say, not to them, but to say internally when you're designing things, there are some things that can be picked up by passive perceptions, and there are other things that can't. And some players will not want to accept that fact, or accept that that's true. And I think that having those high passive perceptions, especially if that's something that they've baked into their character, all that should act as a reminder that every now and then, for some reason or another, they should get to feel special and stand out for having, that high perception, or that high passive perception. It doesn't mean that they're walking around like Sherlock, like, and I'm talking about like, you know, jerk Sherlock from the BBC, who just is spotting things from a mile away, always a super genius. Like, yeah, but that's not because it's, a limitation other than like that just wouldn't be very fun in a, now it could be fun in maybe like a solo game situation, or a, if they are the main character of the story, but not so much fun with the whole group. But that, I mean, that's just one way of handling it. That's the best that I've come up with for managing high passive scores like that. High scores in general, I mean, the further you get into the game, you're also going to have some really high numbers, and yeah, it's just another thing to manage. Yeah, incomplete information for sure. And you could also use high passive to just alert somebody to some information, right? That there's something to be found, even though they don't know what it is. Maybe. Um, but yeah, passive scores, or passive stuff in general, is a bit annoying to me, which is maybe unfair. It's a part of the game, but I have a hard time believing that somebody is just constantly always that perceptive. It's like, oh, okay. Are you a super spy? Are you Jason Bourne? But like, I generally prefer, and I try to encourage the type of play from my players where they're speaking a lot more narratively than they are like speaking through mechanics to get at what they want. Like, yeah, some things just are mechanics and that's the way that it works, but ideally everything is kept a bit more loose and narrative sounding. We want to encourage the type of thought process and behavior that we want to see more of, right? And so the question is, well, what's the type of behavior do we want to see more of? Do we want to see lots of rolling or lots of requests to roll for information? Personally, I don't. So I try to lean into encouraging the type of behavior that I want to see in my games, which is generally people being inquisitive. So if I describe a room that the party walks into, let's say it's a tavern, or they walk into their room at the inn, and I describe that, yeah, this room, maybe it smells a little weird. Looks like the bed is scooted out a couple of inches from the wall, and the window's open. Looks like some markings on the floor. I just sort of rattle off stuff like that. As soon as a player says, can I take a closer look over there at that thing? Or somebody says, actually, the smell, do I recognize that? I'm likely to just give them more information based solely on them asking about it. They're inquisitive, sort of that back and forth is what I'll reward, because that's what I really am looking for. Unless it's something that requires a high level of skill, and that's where I might say, yeah, that smell, it's definitely, there's a twinge of there's like a something, a strong alcohol smell or something, but you can't quite place it. Roll history, right? Or yeah, no, those are definitely like boot tracks going towards the window. The rogue definitely spotted those. Um, and then let them ask further questions about that. Maybe it could lead to a roll. But try to assume, and my goal is also to make everybody feel like they're heroes, right? Like they should feel like they are in some sort of cool adventure story where they're accomplishing noteworthy things. That doesn't mean that they just win all the time, but it certainly means that like they get to be a character that notices things, or that is in a place that other people, it just so happens to be the place where the cool thing happens. Like I'm okay with all of those tropes, I guess. Okay. Did these dry? Kind of. We'll see. Give this another light dry brush. I think it's going to be pretty good. Definitely a light dry brush, though. I don't want to take too much off of it. But okay, well, a lot of drying has to happen here, and a lot of eating has to be done upstairs. So, oh, it takes 20x as long. That makes sense. Thanks everybody for hanging out. I am going to depart for a little bit. Hopefully, come back. I intend to come back this evening for another stream. Probably painting miniatures, even though this is all on my table now. This is all out here. And I just want it to be done. So we'll see. We'll see how I feel. We'll see if I like the idea of breaking all this down again, or just embracing the chaos for a little bit longer and getting it done. But you can see them. You see how close it all is, and how cool they're all going to look. And we'll see. We'll see what happens. There's no way to know. Nobody can know. See you, Renee. See you, everybody. I'll, yeah, be back in a few.